Hi, this is Dee, and you're listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. In tonight's episode, we are doing part 4 of a series that I am doing. It is an ebook, a sobriety ebook that I got off of drugrehab.com, and it's called the Sobriety E-Book, Your Guide to a Better Life, and it is by Chris Elkins. And again, that is on drugrehab.com. If you follow along on my other podcasts, we talked about a few things going through this ebook together. There's 100 pages, give or take. And I'm trying to go through each section and talk about things and obviously put my own words in there. But I wanted to go through this complete ebook. It does have workbook sections in there and questions and whatnot. And feel free to follow along. Get out a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, whatever. You can rewind this if you need to. Feel free to go on there yourself, print it out. You can copy it to a Word document, whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong answers, and obviously you can change them as you go and as you grow. And just be the key point, I believe, like I've said in my other podcasts, is it's very important to be honest with yourself. And you don't need to explain. You don't need to tell people, I guess, if you... let me start over with what I'm going to say. You don't need to explain to people what you're doing if you're not comfortable with that. If this is something you want to do on your own and just quietly do it, that's understandable. Because like I've said in my other ones, sometimes you can be an outspoken in your sobriety and trying to get better and heal and stuff. And just having the pressure of it is a big trigger, and it puts a lot of pressure on you to want to continuously do the right thing. And then if you have a mishap or a bad moment or whatever the case may be, then you are more apt to be more judgmental on yourself and feel more like a failure, I believe. So just trying to take the pressure off of you sometimes is a little bit more, I don't want to say relaxing, but a lot less under the spotlight, I feel. And if you're a silent and closet trying to get sober and going through things where there probably maybe only a handful of people know that you are even fighting an addiction of any sort, it's a lot harder sometimes when you feel like you have nobody to go to. So it's kind of like a catch-22, I guess, if you will, because sometimes you're just damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I have said in my other podcasts, I don't want to look at it as necessary. I guess I like to look at it as healing. You know, you're trying to heal yourself. You're trying to overcome things. And sometimes you just don't even know what it is that you're trying to heal from. And being honest with yourself and your emotions and trying to objectively look at yourself is not always the easiest thing to do, because we are our biggest critics and we are our biggest allies sometimes. And it's hard for us to believe in ourselves and think things are actually possible in the good sense when we have always felt like we have been everything but that. And sometimes in life and society and even our own family have basically alienated us in different ways, or have things that they don't understand, or maybe also too, they're just mentally exhausted themselves from trying to exhaust all the resources and their own abilities and mentally be able to handle trying to help someone in the case of sobriety. And there's mixed sides on every aspect of it, because the person that is trying to get sober and the person that is trying to help someone get sober, sometimes they end up clashing because of the one thing that's in common that they both have, but is not something they have together, if that makes sense. And that's the addiction. And the addiction comes between them, and the addiction is the common denominator between the both of them. Even though one is not addicted to the addiction per se, but they become I guess, probably feeling responsible, if you will, on trying to help someone that they love so much, because always the fear of, watching someone they love die. And if they don't do one more thing and something happens, then, it's their fault because they gave up. But then they are exhausted because they also get PTSD from it all as well. Because sitting back and watching someone you love going through something, it's an emotion very unexplainable. But when you're going through addiction or recovery, or any sort of whatever, even relapsing, anything of that aspect, it is a little hard to be, I guess, in a situation of your mindset where you are not only thinking rationally, but being able to also comprehend and view it from other perspectives, especially when you have a hard time viewing it from your own perspective. So it's very difficult. It's a very fine line to look at everybody's perspective on it, if you will, when your own vision is a blur. Because sometimes you might not remember a lot of gaps in your life that you've had for whatever reason, to where your point of view on something is not necessarily somebody else's. And your addiction might have escalated into numerous forms of, I call it self-medicating, different forms of self-medicating. And sometimes I feel like sometimes you get into the point of the addiction that it is sometimes the healing of the motions of the addiction. It's a matter of going through the process of the addiction, not necessarily the addiction itself sometimes, because you find yourself chasing a high that you majority of the time will never even find. And then you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul and find out Paul's got a brother, and the list goes on. And then before you realize it, you've actually have stolen your own life away from yourself. And whether intentional or not intentional is not the question to those that love you. It's the question of so many things that you don't even yourself know the answers to. And it's really hard to get to the point to make the decision on what do you do now? Where do you go now? Because if you're not thinking rationally, if you're not healing healthy and having healthy alternatives, if you will, then you continue in the same path that you have been following, and you have no idea where that's even taking you or where you've even been, if that makes any sense. So in this episode, we're going to go over the Sobriety E-Book, and I'm hoping that it will help those going through things, or know somebody that's going through things, or just help a little understanding on different aspects. And like I've said before, having an addiction is far more greater than just drugs and alcohol. There are addictions to many, many things. You can be addicted to smoking and the nicotine. You could be addicted to porn. You could be addicted to your phone. You could be addicted to medication that's over the counter. Be addicted to having a shopping problem, a gambling addiction, hypochondriac. You can have bulimia, be anorexic. There's a number of different addictions. You can have addiction to going to support groups. So addiction, it goes far beyond just drugs and alcohol. But during this ebook, obviously they're referring to drugs and alcohol, but also keep in mind that it is not limited to that, because addiction is anything that is self-satisfying to help basically give you some type of reinforcement, whether it's positive or negative, on certain aspects or whatever, on what it is you're choosing to self-medicate from. And maybe it might have started off as just, experimenting or whatever, but also, too, it might be something a little bit more deeper, because I feel like there's a root to everything. And sometimes you don't always know that's even the case on what direction that is going to. And you don't even know what you're really even trying to heal from. You just feel out of place. You feel hollow. You feel misdirected in your own mind. You feel Like you have to apologize to yourself for yourself. You look in the mirror and you see a reflection that you don't even know who that person is anymore. And society and life has made you feel everything but a worthy person and a worthy human being, and somebody who is needed in the world, and or even wanted in the world. And sometimes you feel out of place, maybe like a misfit, like you don't belong. You never feel like you fit in anywhere. The list goes on and on of basically self-alienating yourself without directly meaning to. And it's a very hard journey, especially when you have no comfort of direction, because your direction of your mind and your life and your well-being is so just everywhere. You don't even know where to put it anymore. And so you start putting your feelings in places and hoping to get some type of satisfaction or alleviate some of your pain and mishap, and trying just to make yourself feel a way that you don't even know how you're supposed to even feel. And so you don't even know what feeling it is you're looking for. You're just praying that when you find it, you'll find it and you'll understand. But you don't even know what it is you're looking for that you need to feel. And it's a feeling that, sadly, you have never experienced before. And so you're at a loss. It's like a need. Kind of like a deficiency, if you will. And you don't even know what it is. And trying to self-medicate yourself can lead to other self-medicating, and still trying to look for that deficiency to be filled, that hollowness that you feel inside to be a safe place to go to. And instead you feel lost in the abyss of your own being. And that in itself can be its own direction of self-harming. So I'm hoping that this ebook can hopefully put you in a little bit of a positive direction on trying to make the steps on at least a direction to have the sense of knowing which way to put your foot, per se, on being able to take a step in a different positive direction. So, I mean, obviously there are addictions that are bad, but there are also addictions that are not bad, because there are such things as good addictions. Like, it's not bad to have a positive addiction to be self-reassuring to yourself. It's not bad to have a positive addiction to talk good to yourself and compliment yourself. It's not a bad addiction to show your love to someone or to show love to yourself. There's a lot of positive addictions. And just putting positive reinforcements in your life can help to turn away the aspects of your direction of thinking, and to try to take the negativity and the pain of a reflection that's been going in a negative, hurtful way, that has been quietly but very outspokenly killing you inside, and trying to redirect that into a positive, more happier will to live, if you will, direction. That's kind of the key factor too. So for every negative thing in your life and everything negative you feel, try to redirect that into a positive and counteract it into a positive direction or a positive word. Instead of cussing yourself out and yelling at yourself and telling yourself you're worthless and you're never being meant to, you'll never amount to anything, and people will be better off without you, and all the negative things that hurt you. Self-mutilating yourself and self-sabotaging yourself without even realizing you're doing it, and taking it and redirecting it in a positive form of saying, hey, I'm worth it. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I'm forthcoming. I'm understanding. I'm forgiving. I'm kind. I'm worthy. I'm loved. I'm worth more than I feel, and try to redirect it in a positive sense of your mindset, and continuously reinforce you with those kinds of words. And if you have put yourself down so many times over the years, it has been a way of your own identification. and it's just become a form of your identity. So trying to find a way to redirect that into something positive and continue that in a positive direction, more so than you have the negative, then eventually you're going to be able to start noticing a pattern of healing with yourself and being able to look at the mirror and maybe start to actually beginning to see yourself again for the first time. Because you can look at yourself and not see you. And sometimes people can see you without even looking at you, because they automatically come to a judgment of what they basically want to see, regardless if that's even the reflection you're giving anymore. Because a lot of people like to just they don't want to look, and I say this with due respect to people that are on the other side of the addiction, that have been going through trying to save somebody and help people. This by all means is directed towards your direction. But there are some people that see nothing but the addict. They don't see the other side of you. They don't see the effort you've been putting in. They don't see that you're healing. They don't see the accomplishments you're doing. And society judges people and not even know what you look like, don't even know your name, don't even know your story, don't even know you at all, never even saw you at all, but they judge you and stereotype you without even knowing the full facts. Just like, say you're a teenager, or anybody for that matter, because it could be an adult too. And let's hypothetically say you have a very bad case of, your skin, you break out and you got really bad acne or something, and or you got rosacea or different type of genetic problems or whatever, some kind of something that you have reactions to, and if you are broke out, or if you've got something going on with you in that sense, do people look at it as, not everybody has perfect skin. Well, nobody has perfect skin, but not everybody's complexion is clean and clear and flawless looking, if you will. Not everybody is covered in makeup. And not all makeup is covering. And just because somebody is broke out, don't automatically think they're on a drug. If somebody's got marks on them, or if they've got needle marks in their arm, don't automatically assume they're an addict. Because people have medical things going on where they have to have their blood drawn quite a bit. And eventually, in time, when it gets to the point where it's hard to draw their blood, per se, they put a port in them sometimes to get the blood. But I know when I was carrying my oldest daughter, I had lost a baby before her. And when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, I had to go in every other day to have my blood drawn. Every other day for like a month. Because they need to make sure that my levels were going up and make sure that I was on the right direction of having a positive pregnancy. And I made the comment to the doctor, I looked like I was somebody who was a drug addict, like shooting up, because I had so many needle marks in my arms and my hands, that's what it appeared like to me. And you don't know the facts of people. You don't know whether they're going through a medical thing, or if they are going through, I'd say puberty, but adults get it too. People's hormones, women, some people, when it's certain times of the month, they got different types of hormone levels. Guys, the same. Guys, all due respect, they can't go around, wearing makeup all the time. Some do, and I'm not disputing that at all. I don't have anything negative to say that. But there are a lot of males out there that don't. And if they've got a bad complexion or whatever, then automatically are they a drug addict? Because they can't cover their complexion. And this is a little bit, I haven't got into the ebook yet, but this is still things that are important because it all goes together. And when people are fighting through their self-esteem and their self-worth and bulliness and all kinds of different aspects of life, there's a lot of reasons why people self-medicate in any form. And some people just do it because they don't know where else to put their pain. They don't know where else to put their feelings. They don't they just don't know. And eventually some of them are just like, what's the point? Who would really care? Who would even care? And unfortunately, that seems to be more and more of the direction that our children and society seems to conflict on, if you will. Our younger generation and even our older, our adults, per se. It doesn't stop just because the government says you're of age. Just because the government tells you that you're this many years old, or that you're 18, so automatically now you're an adult, doesn't mean that, hey, I turned 18, boom, I should know everything that an adult needs to know. Or automatically my skin and my complexion should be all perfect now, because that's what an adult does, right? They done went through adolescence and all that. No, that's not the case. Everybody is different. And that doesn't give everybody else to judge them. And, when I was younger, I had terrible complexion. Terrible. It was hideous. I was so miserable. And I had somebody come up to me one time when I was in high school, and I didn't know who they were. And to this day, I can tell you who they were. And they came up to me and said, peroxide. I said, excuse me? And they're like, I use peroxide on my face, and it helps. And I was like, thank you. And they walked away. I have no idea who it was, but that's what they said. And for a while I did. But now to this day, I do not feel my face is clean unless I clean it with rubbing alcohol. I use rubbing alcohol on my face. I could take a shower and get out and still use rubbing alcohol. And that's just the way I am. I sleep with my makeup on. I don't take no makeup cleanser or all that. I use rubbing alcohol before I put my makeup on, and make sure it's clean, and then I put my makeup on. And I have my moments, hit and miss every once in a while, but I also have a lot of allergies. I'm allergic to cats and dogs and pet dander, and seems like everything in the world anymore. But pet dander, it actually swells up my mouth, swells up my eyes, breaks me out real bad. It depends. It has numerous factors. I've had my mouth swell out so bad it looked like, Bubba from Forrest Gump, or my eyes were swollen so bad it looked like somebody beat the hell out of me, and it just really depends. But don't judge people on things you don't know. And so if somebody is fighting through having a bad complexion, doesn't mean they're automatically a drug addict. That doesn't mean they're all messed up, if that makes any sense. So anyway, we're going to get into this ebook. So this ebook, again, is called the Sobriety E-Book, Your Guide to a Better Life. And it was written by Chris Elkins, and it was on drugrehab.com. In the part 1 episode, I'm going to recap on what the episodes were about. In part 1, we went over a welcome letter written by Dr. Timothy Huckabee, He explained a little bit of his life and some things he went through and his recovery and his encouraging words and stuff to everybody that is going through something. And if you have not checked out this ebook, please do. Regardless if I'm reading it to you or not, it is a very good reference for you to have. But also, too, like I said, there are workbook questions in there as well. And you can change them periodically as you grow. And there are no right or wrong answers at all. Just being honest with yourself is the biggest part. In part 1, we did the welcome. They had an explanation on how to use the ebook. Quick tips for sobriety. Understanding the addiction in recovery and relapse. And plus, too, I also went through some of my own perspective and words and points of views. In part 2, we were doing making choices, setting goals, creating goals, creating a support system, finding a safe environment, evaluating your environment. And plus, they also had workbook questions in this section. And then part 3, we went over setting boundaries, communicating your boundaries, thinking about your relationships, creating your own boundaries, and establishing consequences. A lot of that was also in relationship issues and stuff. And it also had workbook and questions. And this one here, in part 4, we're going to be talking about triggers and cravings. I'm not for sure if we're going to be able to get to the next section. And it is, let me get the paper out and I'll tell you, coping skills. And that would be coping behavior questionnaire, deciding how you cope, and keeping track of how you cope. But in the triggers and cravings, we're going to talk about a craving questionnaire and how to avoid triggers. So that's kind of where we're at right now on this one. So we're going to go ahead and get started and see how much we can accomplish through here. I don't really want to rush through it. But at the same time, I don't want you to feel like... I don't want to feel like you're falling behind, because sometimes I talk fast, and I apologize for that. I am a fast talker. So going through these, I will try to slow down. But I don't want you to feel like you can always hit the rewind button. If you are like, what was that? I don't really understand that. Don't feel like this is recorded. So don't feel like you're going to miss out on something. Just rewind it back. If you need to stop it and pause it, then do so. It's recorded. So if I do go too fast for you, unintentionally, stop it, rewind a little bit. Pause it and think if you need to. Try to understand and compute it, or try to look at it in positive, different ways, in your own perspective, in your own experiences. Try to compare it to something that you can relate to. Just because I'm saying it, or I'm wording it how this book is going, or my own opinion, does not necessarily mean that that's the way you need to view it. If you can think of things that are positive in your direction that fit for you, and they're positive outcomes, then that's the positive thing to do. Because what works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. So knowing yourself and being honest with yourself is the key factor on trying to heal. It's not about getting sober and recovery and about relapse per se. It's about healing. Healing and trying to remind yourself of your self-worth and being worth the healing process, and all the rest of the factors are important. But if you go in and say, "Hi, I'm trying to get sober," there's nothing wrong with that. But if you look at it and reword it in a mindset of, "I'm trying to heal. I have all these years of healing that I am trying to heal from," and being realistic with yourself, but at the same time, and I needed to hear this myself, because I go through and try to listen to my podcasts as well, because I say I need to be in my own audience too. But going back through and remembering that you're human, and you're not a mistake. You might not make the most healthiest choices sometimes, but you're not a mistake. And you are worth the effort of trying to heal. You'll always be in a direction of trying to heal from something. Why not making it something that's positive for you? Because negative healing is deadly. And that's not the way you want to heal. That's killing you. That's taking your life away from you in one aspect or another. So trying to take it and heal in a positive direction to actually make your life worth living, and not letting life live you out and outlive you. So we're going to go here. We're on page 40. It's triggers and cravings. Physical cravings can include the following: rapid heartbeat, nervousness, smelling the drug, tasting the drug. Cognitive cravings include thinking about the drug, longing for it, and obsessing over it. Safe environments and healthy relationships decrease overexposure to triggers. Triggers are cues that remind us of alcohol or drug abuse. They're mostly commonly referred to as people, places, and things that are linked to drinking alcohol or using drugs. The first step towards overcoming triggers and cravings is to understand them. Our brains naturally crave certain activities and substance. When we eat food, we're fulfilling our craving for nourishment. The brain rewards us by making us feel happy. We naturally crave social interaction. That's why interacting with friends and family makes us feel good. Drugs overwhelm and disrupt the pleasure and reward system in the brain. They overload our brain's pleasure center, making us feel euphoric. The brain learns to crave the substance because they cause pleasure. Cravings can manifest themselves physically and cognitively. Through treatment or prolonged absences, the brain learns to live without the substance again. However, the memory of how the drug made us feel doesn't vanish as easily. Not varnish, vanish. When a person in recovery sees or experiences something that reminds them of the drug, the brain is triggered into craving this drug again. Now, I said this before. Sometimes it's not, I feel like, so much as the addiction per se, but the motion of the addiction. Because if you are, let's say, if you do things intravenous and you have to get your blood drawn a lot, is that a trigger? If they're injecting a needle in your arm to draw blood, is that a trigger for you? When you go to bathrooms at gas stations or parking lots, or go over to a friend's house, or take a shower or a bath, or go over to certain places or do certain things, or whatever the case may be, whatever your triggers are. I don't know what your triggers are, but whatever triggers you. Or maybe it's around being certain people, or maybe, you're around your buddies and stuff and you want to get sober. And they tell you, you're not supposed to be in the same environment, that you need to leave that environment because you won't be able to get better. You have to change your whole scenery. And I've talked about that before in my other podcasts, that while that can be true, because obviously you need to be able to get strong enough. And I feel like changing your environment per se is a plus and a negative thing, because what you're trying to get healed from and what you're trying to overcome and what you're trying to get out of is the same thing that everybody that you love and that you've been basically spending your darkest hours with and your darkest moments are left in that same environment that you're trying to fight your way out of. And so it's like, do you go back from them? Is there a way to help them? Are you going to be strong enough because you're trying to save yourself as well? Will they be as forthcoming as wanting to get help? Can you do something together to try to heal together and get better together? Like maybe go do activities together, or go to support systems, or whatever the case may be. And I talked about this in some of my other podcasts as well. But it's and I don't want to keep referencing that to other, podcasts, because there's just so much to go over, because it is that deep. But also too, I feel like it takes a positive, perspective, if you will, and a positive direction to help make a positive atmosphere. And that can also help to make somebody's life turn in a more positive and worth living direction. And when it gets to the point when you are not only hurting yourself, but those that you love, and the drug is beyond being an addiction now. It is more important than your own breath. It is more important than the breath of those you love. It is more important than your morals and your standards and your hopes and your dreams. And it is more important than anything else in the world. And why some people say, no, man, that's not, I can quit any time. And I applaud you for thinking that, because that's your first mindset, is positive thinking. But at the same time, are you saying that as you're doing something harmful to somebody that you love, or something harmful to yourself, or something harmful to anybody for that matter? Are you stealing from them? Are you doing things that you shouldn't? Are you breaking into people's homes? Are you stealing cars? Are you taking people's belongings? Are you being vindictive to people and being mean to people? And the list goes on. I mean, there's a lot of ways to hurt people. But then, are you hurting yourself too? Are you self-mutilating yourself? Are you sabotaging your own life and taking away precious time from those that you love that you can't get back? Is that drug worth all of everything that you want, more than everything? What is it? What if what you're trying to find in that drug is the exact same thing that drug is taking away from you? And that's your hollow feeling. And there's lots of ways to look at that. If you're not understanding this, that, and the other about yourself, and you're wanting love and affection and feeling like you belong, and not feeling, you want to feel worthy and wanted and trusted and whatever your feelings may be, is that what that drug is taking away from you? That drug does not love you. That drug does not love you. It does not lay with you at night and comfort you while you sleep. If anything, it keeps you awake and makes you more psychotic. If anything, it makes you incoherent and not making best choices. If anything, it is taking your blood pressure and making it skyrocket and make your heart palpitate in unhealthy direction, instead of trying to calm your heart and soothe you and relax you. It's taking your breath away to where you can't breathe very well anymore because your lungs are not as healthy anymore. So then you need supplemental oxygen. It's not bringing life into your lungs and making you feel like, oh, this feels so good, and taking a real good deep breath and it actually be replenishing. That drug does not love you. It does not love you. It is selfish. It is a thief. It is condescending. It is manipulating. It is conniving. It is self-harmful. It is dangerous. It is deadly. It is toxic. And it is a hypocrite. And it is the biggest reason why you deserve to walk away from it. You are more important than any drug will ever be in this world. You are the one that you need to be addicted to in a healthy way. That drug does not love you. That drug is out to kill you and make your life miserable on the way down, and take everything in the process as it goes. Whether you're buried or not, you'll feel like you're already there. You're already dead. You're already gone. You're a zombie. You're walking through life, and you're not even there in it anymore. You're already dead. That drug does not love you. External triggers include people, places, things, and situations. Internal triggers include thoughts, memories, and stress. Sensory triggers include sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and touches. During the early stages of recovery, It's difficult to overcome triggers. That's why most people are encouraged to avoid them. It's also why you should have a relapse. Let me start that line over. It's also why you should have a relapse prevention plan in place. If you experience a trigger, you can follow your plan to avoid relapse. You'll make an emergency relapse prevention plan after learning more about relapse on page 80. Now we're on page 41, so the first time you're exposed to a trigger, you may experience a severe craving. Over time, the cravings may become less severe. The longer you maintain sobriety, the easier it gets. That doesn't mean you'll become invincible over time. Most people in recovery must always be basically knowledgeable of triggers and practice healthy ways to overcome stress and trauma. Now, I'll say this. Sometimes that's easier said than done, because if you are not in the mental capacity of clearness, if you will, your rational decision making is not always the best. So trying to think level-headed and stuff is difficult, with all due respect, when you're strung out all the time, because you are not in the mindset of knowing even what mindset you're even in to be able to make a plan. So trying to find, I guess, being honest with yourself as much as you can, and an honest world in your being, respectfully, it's a little difficult to do. So when you're at a point in your life that you can think a little bit more clearer on yourself, try then to find ways to help you cope. Try to find ways of plans of action. If there are people or organizations, there's plenty of resources out there, don't misunderstand me. But being in the capable, level-minded realization of knowing how to handle that during full-blown addiction is almost next to feeling like it's impossible. So the moments that you can get to the point where you are capable of being more of yourself, if you will, that is the time to try to come to terms with what will work for you. And going through this ebook, if you haven't went through the other sections, go through them, listen to it, be honest with yourself through the workbooks. Listening to this ebook is one of the major steps in your life of going to a positive direction. Everything that it took you to get to the point of listening to this podcast was the first major step. Because, actually, opening your eyes today is the first major step, but it's a big, huge process, and sometimes it just seems like a merry-go-round, and you're just going and going and going, and you're not getting anywhere, and sometimes it just won't stop for you, and so it's like, do I jump? Do I jump off and wish for the best and hope I don't get hurt? Or do I keep going in a circle? Or will somebody finally help me? Or do I have to find an alternate route? There's so many factors, different directions to go. Or you just sit down and just say, screw it, who cares? And just keep going through the motions. And eventually, something's going to happen. Either that carousel is going to give out in time, or you will. So do you take the leap of faith and hoping you don't get hurt? Or do you look at it a different way and think, I'm going to take the leap of faith, because if I don't, I'm going to die on this merry-go-round because I'm not getting anywhere. At least if I get off of here, at least I have a chance to survive and have some sort of life, because I already know what life is going to be like on this merry-go-round. I'm just going to keep going in a circle and not go nowhere. It's not stopping. So do you take the leap of faith and get off of that merry-go-round and try to live and find other positive things in life to do and actually have a life? Or you just sit your butt down in one of the chairs on the merry-go-round until your life is over, or until the machine runs out. Or I should say, until the drug runs out. Or runs you out. However you want to look at it. Because there won't always be somebody there. There won't always be somebody there. You will be on your own. And you can't give yourself, you wouldn't know when to give yourself Narcan, if that would even make the difference. Because there are drugs out there that Narcan does not even touch. So it says, here's a craving questionnaire. So we're going to go through these craving questionnaires here. Once you understand what triggers your cravings, you can learn how they affect you. The alcohol craving questionnaire was developed by researchers from the National Institute on Drug Abuse to analyze the cravings of recovering alcoholics. An adapted version of the questionnaire, it will be as follows. It measures compulsivity, basically anticipation of loss of the ability to stay sober, the anticipation of positive benefits from using, and intent and planning on to use. And then also anticipation of relief from withdrawal, stress, and other negative effects of using your drug. So here are the questions. Again, if you cannot write these down right now, that's fine, because you can rewind this. You can go on drugrehab.com. Because obviously I'm going to read this, and unless you're really, really fluent with your handwriting, it's a lot. So, it says, fill out the questionnaire below, calculate your score, and determine how cravings affect you. Adapted from the Alcohol Craving Questionnaire form, ACQ-S as in Sam, F as in Frank, -R as in Robert. Indicate how much you agree or disagree with each statement. When you determine how you feel about each statement, think about how you feel right now. Complete each item. So when you go through these, determine how you feel about each statement, and think about how you're feeling right now when you're answering the question. And they are numbered, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is strongly disagree, and 5 being strongly agree, if I can get that word out. Number 1, if I had alcohol or another drug, I would probably consume it. If I had alcohol or another drug, I would probably consume it. 1 being strongly disagree, 2, 3, 4, and 5 being strongly agree. So you can pick any number in there on how you do it. 3 would be neutral, like, in the middle. Number 2, same format as in the numbering. I miss drinking or using. I miss drinking or using. Number 3, same setup on the numbering. I am not making any plans to drink or use. I am not making any plans to drink or use. Number 4, same setup on the numbering. I could not stop myself from drinking or using if I had alcohol or another drug here. I could not stop myself from drinking or using if I had alcohol or another drug here. Number 5. I want to drink or use so bad I can almost taste it. Same setup on the numbering. I want to drink or use so bad I can almost taste it. number 6. And these are numbers, all the same setup on the numbering system. Number 6. I would feel less irritable if I used alcohol or another drug right now. I would feel less irritable if I used alcohol or another drug right now. Number 7. If I used alcohol or another drug, I would feel less tense. If I used alcohol or another drug, I would feel less tense. Number 8. Drinking or using would not be very satisfying. Drinking or using would not be very satisfying. Number 9. I would feel less restless if I drank alcohol or used a drug. I would feel less restless if I drank alcohol or used a drug. Number 10. If I were using alcohol or another drug, I would feel less nervous. These questions sound kind of redundant, but it's worded different. If I were using alcohol or another drug, I would feel less nervous. Number 11. It would be easy to pass up the chance to use alcohol or another drug. It would be easy to pass up the chance to use alcohol or another drug. Number 12. Drinking or using would put me in a better mood. Drinking or using would put me in a better mood. Now it says, tally your scores using the grid below and add them in the column on the right. For questions 3, 8, and 11, reverse the score. For those questions, the score for strongly disagree is 5, and the score for strongly agree is 1. The score for disagree is 4, and the score for agree is 2. So on those 3 questions, you want to swap the number of, make them like opposite of it, if you will. That's on question 3, 8, and 11. So if the score is strongly disagree on question 3, 8, or 11, and your score is 5, then you want to put it as a 1. Yeah. And then same like strong for disagree is 4, and the score for agree is 2. Something like that. So anyway, let's see. I'm trying to make sure I read this right. Okay. So compulsiveness. I need to make sure I know how to read this. I'm kind of confused myself. Let's see. It says compulsiveness on question. Oh, okay. So question 4 is 5 and 6 are compulsive. Oh, you have to write down what your numbers are. I'm sorry. Like what your score is. Expectancy for question 1, 2, and 12. Purposefulness, question 3, 8, and 11. And emotional is 7, 9, and 10. So you put your scores next to that and then total them in. Let's see. So think about your scores. Are you at the risk for compulsiveness? So this basically tells you what you're the risk at. So which one is the highest one would be the one that you're most. So let's say your score on compulsiveness is 10, and expectancy is 5, and your purposefulness is 2, and your emotionalness, let's say, is 6. Your compulsiveness would be 10, so that would be what you'd be higher at. more of a risk of being compulsive. So just think about your score. Are you at the risk for compulsiveness? Do you expect positive benefits from using alcohol or other drugs? Have you planned on using drugs? And do you anticipate relief from stress or withdrawal if you use? A score higher than 6 in any category suggests you're experiencing cravings and are at a risk for relapse. A score higher than 9 in any category suggests you're experiencing severe cravings and are at a high risk of relapse. This questionnaire is a self-evaluation tool. It has been adapted from a scientifically proven tool, but has not been scientifically tested in its adapted form. It should not be used to diagnose a medical condition, used to seek a healthcare provider, or for an official diagnosis if you believe you currently have a substance use disorder or at a high risk for relapse. So that is very confusing to me, if it's not to you. But basically what it's saying is go through and add your scores up. And the questions that they have on here. So being compulsive, it relates to question 4, 5, and 6. So whatever your answer on those numbers are, you put, so whatever your answer was to the question 4, let's say hypothetically it was a 2, you want to put 2 there. On question 5, let's say it was 5, then you put a 5 there. Say question 6 was a 1, you put a 1 there. And then you total them up. So you have 2, 5, and 1. So you would have 8. So your total would be 8. If that makes any sense. And so on and so on. Let's see. And if you're stressed out and that just triggered you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what these questions are prior to reading them. So I'm reading them right along as you're hearing them. Avoiding triggers. Think about the results of your craving questionnaire. List the triggers that remind you of past alcohol or drug use, or that may make you experience cravings. Remember, triggers can be external, internal, or sensory. So, like, what are your triggers? What people are your triggers? What places are your triggers? What things trigger you? Are there certain emotions that trigger you? What senses trigger you? You know, sight, smell, touch. Your senses. Well, your senses, but your sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing. And then analyze your list of triggers. Think of realistic ways that you can avoid triggers. If necessary, return to page 33 and think of boundaries you set to avoid triggers, which was in our last episode on part 3. We talked a lot about relationships and setting boundaries. And then also, how can you avoid triggers? How can you avoid the people, places, things, emotions, and senses that can help you with trying to get away from your triggers and I guess healing from them, if you will. So, and that's probably very confusing in some sense, but take it to however it works for you. Because basically it's just trying to help you to realize what areas are apt to help you to be aware of and acknowledge and try to stay on top of. Compulsiveness. If being compulsive is one of the major aspects of your triggering, then try to find out ways on what you're compulsive about and see how you can overcome them or alleviate them a little bit. So now we're going to talk about coping skills. We're going to go through some of this. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's a bunch of questionnaires and some of it too. So let's see how much we can get through this. I will not go through the questionnaires tonight on this one because that's a lot already for you guys. So I'm going to go through the coping skills and we're going to go this. We're already at 59 minutes. So let's see. Coping skills. This is on page 47. Now that you understand cravings and triggers, know how they affect you, and have a list of ways to avoid triggers, it's time to learn to cope with them. Coping skills help you dampen the effects of triggers and overcome cravings. So it starts off with distraction. The simplest way to overcome a trigger is to take your mind off of it through distraction. You can distract yourself physically by walking away from a high-risk situation, practicing relaxation techniques, or starting a conversation about a specific topic, like changing the subject. Distractions are more effective if you know you're about to experience a craving. If you know you're going to a place where alcohol and other drugs will be present, make a conscious effort to avoid them or plan ways to distract yourself. The most effective distraction is to leave the area and go somewhere safe. So like if you go somewhere, like if you're a recovering alcoholic, and somebody's having a party, if you will, and they're going to a bar or a club, or they have alcohol there, trying to obviously be aware of this, but be able to know how to cope with it and handle it is a big factor in itself. I do know a few recovering alcoholics that I applaud very, very much. One of my really, really good friends, her husband is a recovering alcoholic, and he has been to the bars and stuff with her, and has drank, soda or whatever sitting there, and was just fine with it. But it has taken a long time for him to get that point of recovery, and I'm very proud of him on how far he's come with that. And it's situations though like that people don't understand. That just because you're not a recovering addict or alcoholic doesn't mean that the person that is there, maybe they decline to come because they're not strong enough, and you get upset with them because you don't understand why they didn't come. Why did they stand you up? And why couldn't they participate and be a part of it without understanding the full effects of it? And maybe you're upset with them and angry, and maybe you don't want to talk to them because you feel like they abandoned you or didn't acknowledge your special occasion, or whatever the case may be. When in fact maybe they stayed away silently because they were not able to cope with the surroundings and the temptation. Or maybe they thought they were strong enough to go somewhere and instead found that they weren't. So trying to get strong enough for that craving or that situation is something to overcome sometimes that some people just will not even realize that is even a factor for them. If they, for one, if they think, hey, I've been sober this long and I've got it and I'm good, and it just takes that one moment, that one incident, that one craving to, be a part of rotation, if you will, and wherever the case may be and whatever you're rotating, so Talking to supportive friends, family members, or peers can help relieve the anxiety and feeling of helplessness that accompanies cravings. Sponsors and therapists are valuable resources to talk to if you experience a severe craving and are thinking about drinking or using. They can help you to determine the cause of the craving and the best ways to overcome it. Some friends and family members may worry when they learn that you're experiencing a craving. If you know someone is likely to panic or make the situation worse, you may want to avoid contacting them. But it is important to find someone that you can trust to help you through the situation and avoid isolation. Now, hypothetically, let's say that your family, I don't want to say is not supportive, but is very judgmental and just not there for you. Or maybe you don't have a family. Maybe you don't have a lot of friends, or you don't have people that you trust to go through and can find. Maybe all your friends and family per se are the ones that you're self-medicating with. Maybe that's all the family you have. And so what do you do? If you're alone and you're lonely and you're lost and you're confused and you don't have all that and you're stuck. So it's a little difficult to feel like you have anybody to lean on. And that's a very difficult situation to find yourself in when you feel like they say, hey, find somebody to go to somebody, and you don't feel like you have anybody. And then let's say that you take a chance and you go to somebody and you confide in them, and you lay your whole life and your cards and your well-being and everything out to a certain person, whoever it may be, and you actually opened up to them and came to them, and unfortunately you didn't get the reaction you was hoping for. Instead, you got somebody who was judgmental on you, who didn't understand, who belittled you, who made you feel like a worthless piece of shit, or whatever the case may be. And it didn't go the way you needed it to go. And you needed it to go a different way because you were reaching out for help. Or let's say, hypothetically, you did all that and the person was everything you needed. And then some. But unfortunately, as time went by, your strength was not as strong on certain moments. And so your moments became into bigger moments. And then the person that has been helping you and is putting everything pretty much on the line of their own well-being to try to save you, now they are in a situation of feeling like they have failed you. And that might instead also trigger them on their well-being. And it's a big, huge domino effect. But it's a game that honestly is not worth playing when it costs you your life. It's really not. And that's not always the easiest direction to look at. Because sometimes that's the only way you know. Because that has become your identity. And then on top of it, you feel like even more of a disappointment because you know and you feel that you've let this other person down. And you don't want to appear like a failure. Or maybe you're two recovering addicts that are trying to get better. And one's doing, I don't want to say better than you, but they're a little bit more stronger in that area than what you are. And you don't want to look like, you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to look like a failure. You don't want them to look at you, in any way other than what you're trying to be. And you're trying to go in a positive direction and you're fighting for your life, but you don't have the right tools and necessities to survive your own life. And it's not because you're not trying per se, it's because you're exhausted. You're fighting for your life and you're on that merry-go-round. You're on the merry-go-round and you're just going around. And do you trust yourself enough to take the leap of faith to be positive and have a better life for yourself? Or are you just going to keep on that circle going around and around with no destination? Because you don't know what to do. You've run around so many times on that merry-go-round that you've lost your way. You've lost your direction. You've lost your sense of navigation. You've lost control of yourself, and the path that you have wanted for yourself is now all just a blur in a circle, and you don't know where you're supposed to go. All you know is you're just still spinning. And that's the cycle you're in. So what are you supposed to do? And you see somebody who has taken the leap of faith of trying to better themselves and put themselves together and find a more positive way to heal. Do you trust that process enough to do that for yourself too? Or do you stay going in a circle in a merry-go-round, praying that I don't know. I don't know what you're praying for. Only you know that. And if you pray for it, God gives you the tools. What are you going to build? Are you going to build yourself? Or are you going to build another seat on that merry-go-round? To extend it out a little bit more so you can stretch your legs and stay longer. I mean, that's questions you can only ask yourself. Going with the craving. One way to overcome a craving is to experience it or ride it out. It's important to do this in a safe, secure environment that is free of alcohol or drugs. Focus on the craving. Put the craving into words. Describe it. Describe what it feels like. Think about its intensity, where it occurs, and how it changes. It may be helpful to journal your thoughts. Concentrating on the craving can make it go away and help you to understand it. It's usually helpful to practice the steps before a craving occurs so you are ready to go with it or experience it. Now, I'm going to say this. I agree with that and disagree, because your mindset at the time of a craving will not be the same as it is when you're not at that mindset of a craving. Now, I understand what it's saying, you have a plan of action, and this is true, because I have a plan of action when my anxiety gets going, and I have a backup to that backup. Because when you're in that mind frame, you're thinking logical and all that other stuff is not, it's not as easily coherently there. So having a game plan on thinking on how you're going to get through a situation of a craving or whatever, that's a smart thing to do, but also to make a few of them. Because what might not work at that time frame, another one might. So have a backup to your backup. And I have found that that works. I have said before, I do my ABCs in my head. And when I get to the part of won't you say them with me, I'll take a deep breath and I'll start again. And once I can get myself calm, sometimes I do sign language with it, saying it. So I can occupy my mind in different directions to help take it and redirect it off of the moment that I'm going through. And when I get to the point of getting through it, then I do it again, kind of like a cleansing redirection, if you will. And then sometimes I have to do it one more time. And I have to make sure and reassure myself and be honest with myself, do I need to do it again? Or am I okay? And I ask myself that. Do you need to do it again? Are you okay? Do you need to say it out loud? Do you need to say it in your head? Do you need to sign it at the same time? Honest questions with myself in the moment. But having a backup plan if that doesn't work. And so far, that has been what has been working for me. And I have been so deeply, so upset, like unbelievably upset. Like I was like making myself sick. I was so upset. Not purposely, but I was like, and it calmed me down. Sometimes it took a while, but it did calm me down. And I would lay down and I would go to sleep, or I'd go about my way, or whatever it was. But I found what worked for me. And I tried other things prior to that, and they worked for a while, but then they stopped working. Sometimes being caught in the moment is changing the moment around. And I always say, you don't have bad days, you have bad moments. Take the bad moment, make it a better moment, and you'll have a better day. And sometimes that is easier said than done. But it is doable. Because you have to find what works for you. And this is doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of being honest with yourself, a lot of compromising, a lot of reassurance, a lot of compassion and understanding, but also a lot of complimentary to yourself. You need to compliment yourself. And then that's between being complimentary to yourself and compatible with yourself, but also to words of compliments. I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, all the complimentary things. But you also have to be complimentary to you. Don't fight against yourself in a positive direction. If you're going to do something positive, don't fight against yourself to not accomplish your positive direction. Be complimentary to yourself. Compliment your positiveness, if that makes any sense. To me, it does, but it's hard sometimes for me to explain some things that work for me in my mind, because sometimes I think things differently sometimes, and I don't know always how to use my words and explain them in a way that I feel like are understood. And sometimes I'm really bad also at second guessing myself. And I'm trying to teach myself to be more self-confident. And that's a big thing too. And I have a lot of hang-ups. And that is a big reason why I started my podcast and do the things that I do, because I am trying to heal in so many directions. And I've got a lot of trauma and pain, and I'm a self-harm survivor. I'm a surviving suicidal victim. The list goes on and on. I've talked about it extensively in a lot of my other podcasts. I'm very open and very straightforward on it all, because this is me. And I'm not going to walk on eggshells on my own podcast, because then that beats the purpose of my own podcast. I don't know who listens to this. I can't see who listens to it. And that's fine with me, because I don't need to. Because whatever I'm saying, it is me. And even if I help one person, even if it's just me, then I have done my job of what I'm setting out to do. And I am trying very wholeheartedly to save myself. But at the same time, I have been trying to save everybody else in this life except me. That I'm trying to remember that it's okay to save me, and I'm not selfish for doing it. Because I should matter too. And I do matter. I'm just trying to remind myself that I matter to me, even if other people make me feel like I shouldn't. If that makes any sense. So, remember negative consequences. Cravings often remind us of positive consequences. However, you choose sobriety because alcohol or other drugs caused you problems. When you experience a craving, think about the damage the substance caused you the last time you used it. Think about the progress you've made in sobriety and the damage that relapse would cause. Think about the risk of using. Review the list of reasons why you became sober on page 20. Recreate the list on your own cell phone or a piece of paper, or in some other manner to keep on you at all times. So that way you can just go through and kind of make them your own. And let me go back to page 20 and see what it says. Page 20, where is that at? Oh, look at that, page 20. Oh, making a choice. Page 20, the questions were, why did you become sober? And I also put in there, why do you want to become sober? What are the benefits of sobriety? What are the challenges of sobriety? And basically the pros and cons of it. So those are some questions to ask you. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answers, and you can change them continuously as you continue to grow through it. When you experience a craving, review the list without reminders. It can be difficult to recall negative consequences of alcohol or drugs while you're experiencing a craving. Self-talk. When you're addicted to alcohol or another drug, the brain develops memories and associations with drinking and using. When you experience a craving, it may automatically trigger certain memories or thoughts. If you feel like you have to use it now, or if you, If you feel like you have to use now, or if you will die without the drug. You have to use it now, or if you will, you'll die without the drug. Ignore those exaggerated thoughts. You can combat negative thoughts by challenging them. Think specific thoughts to remind yourself that you don't have to use now, and that you won't die without it. Normalize the craving by understanding that everyone goes through this and everyone experiences cravings. This may be helpful to verbalize positive thoughts. So basically, self-talk to yourself of the positive reinforcement, if you will. Going through and doing self-talk to give you your complimentariness, compliment yourself. Trying to build up your confidence and your self-worth and your esteem and all that stuff. Talk yourself through it and alleviate all the negativity as best as you can and redirect it into a positive form of self-reassurance and positive growth. And try to look at it in that direction and see if that can help you through a moment. Because sometimes it's a matter of getting through a moment. But also, too, it also comes down to taking the chance of not surviving the moment. So there's that to think about as well. And maybe, people think, that's not going to help me, or this, that, and the other. But then you also, too, you've watched your friends around you die. Maybe you've been in the room with them. Maybe you've tried to save them. Maybe you have saved them. Maybe you're just like, I don't know. I don't want to put words into your mouth or into your feelings, but sometimes people, when they overdose or something, they don't even realize it. They just merely kind of go to sleep. And then when they wake up and they're mad because you either took their high away, or they're in pain, or they're confused and disoriented, or now they're going to go through withdrawals really hard, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of factors. Or they don't wake up. And then you're going to your friend's funeral, or they're going to yours. Or maybe none of you are going to make it to either one's because you both didn't make it. Or maybe you didn't die, but now you're a vegetable. And you can't take care of yourself. And it's done something to you. There's a lot of factors to think in there, because they are doing so much in this world now that is, I don't think scary is even the word for it. And it doesn't have to do anything with the borders. That could be made in your own backyard. Have somebody, theoretically speaking, or literally. It's in our borders. It's not just out of our borders. It's in our borders too. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. They make it into so many different things. And it's scary. It's scary. You don't have to be in a certain country or a certain state or a certain city or a certain nationality or a certain race or age or educational level or anything. You don't even have to be a human being, and it will affect you. It could very much affect you, and it could very much kill you. It does not keep, it doesn't keep a census, because I don't need to. I don't need to keep a census, an account, because, it's a senseless census. I don't keep the numbers, because the numbers are so huge in magnitude that, unfortunately, the numbers are not big enough. And so it's just on repeat. Or like in math class, remainder this, for basically forever. And unfortunately, there's not always a remaining anything except heartache and tears, and a reminder of what's not there. And it's forever. And unfortunately, it is becoming way more of a reality than anything else in the world, it seems like, because it is that powerful right now. And it comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms. It does not discriminate on anything because that drug does not care. It does not love you. And sometimes it's a matter of the product of the production, but sometimes it's the production that makes you the consequence of the product. And it doesn't care either. And they don't love you like that either. So, unfortunately, it has to be to the point where you have to take the time to remember who really loves you and what really doesn't. And in the meantime, pray that you're alive long enough to actually know that answer. And pray even more hard that you are able to tell yourself that in the mirror. And to love yourself. Love yourself more than that drug. Love yourself more than that production. Because you are that important. And you do deserve to feel that important. Next section, saying no. Saying no to someone who offers alcohol or drugs is one of the most difficult skills to develop. We want to appease others, even strangers, when they invite us to join them in an activity. But saying no is one of the most important skills to develop for someone in sobriety. If friends or family members offer you alcohol or drugs, you can say no. You can walk away. Remember the boundaries you created to maintain sobriety and healthy relationships. Enforce consequences when people choose to cross your boundaries. Now, I'm going to say this. That is very good advice. However, it's not that simple. To be that simple. Because, like I said, somebody could be sober for years, and it could take that one moment of mindset, whatever the case may be, or having that feeling one more time for old time's sake, one more time of this, one more time of that, and eventually, one time becomes many times, and eventually it becomes no more time. And then you find yourself still on the merry-go-round. And now you're not even noticing that it's even going around at all. You don't even notice it's even moving or not moving. Because you're not. Okay, this says, ways to say no. I can't, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, not now, maybe another time. Change the conversation, propose something else to do, change locations, pretend you received a call or a text, pretend you have to go back to work or something. Now that might be some factors. It's a game plan, if you will. Thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is my plan of action. I'm going to change this around. I'm going to, step out of the room or go out to my car for a minute to get something, or say I have to go somewhere. Or maybe have a code word with somebody. When it gets a little bit too deep for you and you don't want to explain things to somebody, maybe you have a code word with somebody and they acknowledge that, hey, you're having a moment and there needs to be some type of redirection in a different way, whether it be the friend who is hosting the party or whose house you're in, or the person that you're there with, or somebody that you trust and know. Whatever the case may be, whoever you felt inclined and confident enough to have a code word with, that might be even something to help you. But at the same time, too, that might be something that will also help to trigger them in a positive way. Because sometimes I feel like it's healing for a person when they are, it's very self-worthy when you feel worthy. And helping others is a great way to give yourself a positive reinforcement, not only to the person that you're helping, but yourself as well. And that is a very great positive feeling rush. And that is a positive thing that should be a very positive addiction per se for you. And it takes one moment, one episode, one person, one situation, one redirection to change everything. It's up to you to try to figure out how to choose the possible direction to go for yourself and those you love. Because a merry-go-round should be fun and happy. Fun, going around and riding on the little horses and, going up and down and hearing the music playing, and at a carnival per se, having fun. And then get off the ride and go to another ride and play. Play, have life, breathe, experience life and, the adrenaline rush, if you will, but it's a safe way. It's a safe thing. It's a fun thing. It's not turning something fun into something negative and deadly. It's keeping it for what it's meant to be. Entertainment, fun, family time, relaxation, whatever you want to put in there on what you think amusement parks and the carousel ride is all about. It shouldn't be the motion of light just going in a circle and spinning and having no control of it. You're just going for the ride. And that's where you got to decide. Are you riding to have fun and experience an amusement of a brief moment of life, to enjoy, to go to the next part of life, to keep going and having different activities and fun things to do and different qualities of moments, different happy times of moments, memories, pictures, selfies, entertainment, whatever you want to name it? Are you going to ride that carousel and go through the circle of spinning around and around and ride it till you die? You got to decide. What are you going to do? Because you are the only one that's going to be able to take that next breath for you. They might have machines and mechanical things to help you breathe, but it's your body. You're not a machine, you're a human being. Eventually, they pull the plugs on machines. They reboot them and put a new battery in and plug them into a different outlet or whatever the case may be. Can't do that to you. You're a human being. You don't get rebooted. You don't get a new battery. You don't get plugged into a different outlet. Don't be on that carousel spinning your life away. If you're going to have faith in something, have faith in yourself. And know that you are here for a purpose. God don't make junk. God don't make worthless things. God don't put poison in your body. Mankind does. So decide on who you're going to take the leap of faith for. Because you don't need to ride that circle round and round. You don't. You don't deserve that. You've been on a circle of life your whole life. It's time to take a different path. One that actually is going somewhere. Because sometimes it is a lonely road of fate that leads to the most beautiful places. And when you're just spinning in a circle, you're just making yourself dizzy. That's all you're doing. But there is hope for you. There is. Don't give up. Don't give up by any means. There are a lot of resources out there. There are a lot of people that go through things. There are a lot of survivors. But I guarantee those survivors, every single moment of their life, they're still healing from some way, shape, or form. But they're doing it. They might not have confidence in themselves all the time, but I'll tell you, I am very proud of every single one of you that are. I'm proud of every single one of you listening to this podcast because you have taken the moment to have faith enough in yourself and the willpower to at least open your eyes today and take a breath of a moment. And that is a huge, huge accomplishment just in itself. And if you know, you know. There are many people that unfortunately do not know how to even do that. They want to sometimes, and sometimes they just want the pain to stop, and they don't know anything else. Self-medicating is not helping. Not any drugs or alcohol form. So there's other forms of self-medicating. And they're deadly. Because self-medicating comes in a lot of forms. A lot. And some self-medication, it counteracts in a deadly way. And you are the consequence of that reaction. And you don't deserve that. And if you are suffering with anything, 988 is a suicide prevention hotline. There are many resources and people out there. But it's not always so easy to reach out to people when you're not in the right frame of mind. So try to make a plan of action the best that you can when you have a moment to get your own breath without it suffocating you. Because you are that important and that well deserving to be able to live your next moment and your next breath. And I'm going to close out now. We're at an hour and 38-ish. And I always say, if you're going through something, obviously reach out to somebody because it is very important. But also, too, if you're on the other end and somebody reaches out to you, please don't belittle them. Don't tell them it's their problem or they're stupid or they need to get over it or whatever the case may be. Because that does not help. Because when they take the time and the effort of being able to gather themselves enough to even come to anybody, to admit not only to somebody else, but their own self, that they are at that level with themselves, don't Don't belittle them and make them feel like they're a piece of shit, worse than what they probably already feel. Don't act like you don't care, because you will be caring very much, especially if you're carrying their casket, because it does go that deep. And I pray for everybody that is going through something in their life. Everybody's got something going on. This world needs to be a little bit more understanding and compassionate and less judgmental and condescending. It would be a whole better place. We all say this world's going to hell in a handbasket with a bow on top of it. Well, I don't know. It takes all of us to come together to intercept that basket and make it a better, I don't know, care package, if you will. Why does it got to go to hell? I don't think it's going to hell. I think we're already living there pretty much anymore. So maybe we need to come together as a one and a whole to make it the kind of world that God has intended it to be. My thoughts, anyway. And on that, if you have spent your time listening to me, as always, I thank you, because it is the one thing in your life that you will not get back, and you have dedicated it to me and listening to me. And if you are struggling with addiction of any form, or struggling period, please don't give up on yourself. You are not all the demons that you see in that reflection of yourself. You are worth more than what others have ever made you feel. But you are way more worth value than any drug of any self-medicating that is killing you in every direction. Because that drug does not love you. And on that, I'm going to close out. And I pray for each and every one of you. May God be with you all, and hold you at night and when you need it most in your darkest hours. And just remember, you don't always need the light on to see your own reflection. Sometimes you need to turn the light out to really see yourself, because sometimes the light can be very blinding and distort who you are. So see yourself in the dark without the influences of the outside world, and the beauty that you actually are. Make your own light. Be your own reflection. Because not all darkness needs to be dark, and not all light. Some light blinds your eyes, and that's not good for you either. But you can't have darkness without light, and you can't make shadows if you don't have darkness and light. And there's it's a complementary thing. And I know what I mean in my head, but sometimes, like I said, it don't come out the right way. So sometimes you have to take the leap of faith and build your wings on the ride down. And even if your wing is broken, don't think you still can't soar and repair and fly. But not all angels wear wings, and not all angels are white. So anyway, I'm gonna go for now before I start rambling on. And my heart goes out to all of you. It really does, if you're fighting something. So until then, I'm going to go. Please feel free to check out my other podcasts, as well as my other ones of this ebook. But I forget how many I've got going on now, 40-some podcasts now. I'm on Podbean and also my YouTube channel at Let Me Clear My Throat. And on that, I'm going to close out, and I hope everybody has a safe and blessed evening. Good night.